What's going on, everybody? My name's LeakyTapsMan and I'm going to do a bit of a different video for you today. I'm going to talk about E3 2012 and what I thought about the entire thing. I know it's not one of my usual videos, but I did kind of promise you an E3 video a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to deliver on that promise for once. And what I'm going to do is basically what Stewie Griffin likes to call a compliment sandwich. I'm going to say something good about the show, something bad in between, and then finish with something good. But they're not just going to be three simple points. I'll obviously go into a bit more detail and I'll elaborate somewhat. But I'll start with something good, and as always that will be the games themselves. And I'll start with a few of the games that really stood out for me and made a lasting impression. Now, Halo 4. I'm a massive Halo fan. It is my absolute favourite series, and I was a bit apprehensive about 343 taking over the reins of the game, but it really looks superb. The graphics are incredible for how old the 360 is now. The Forerunner guns look incredible, the campaign looked interesting, the multiplayer looks good, albeit they've taken far too much out of Call of Duty for my liking, but there are worse games they could copy. I just would like it to retain its own identity, but all in all, Halo 4 was definitely one of the highlights. Another game that really stood out for me was Tomb Raider. Now, I did see this at last year's E3 and I thought, yeah, this actually really looks like it could be good. But the second E3 I always think is the make or break one, and it really made it for me. The game looks superb, it has this visceral brutality about the whole thing, and when they say it's getting darker and it's getting more brutal, they actually mean it, not just like a lot of these developers spew out a lot of this crap that they just want you to believe. The game really is quite sadistic, and from the looks of the demos, there seems to be a lot of possibilities in the routes that you can take, and it really looks like a game that I'd love to play. And another really good looking game was The Last of Us for the PlayStation 3. Now, this game wasn't really on my radar before E3, but it is very much at the top of my most wanted games, or it's up there in the top few. If you have not seen any gameplay or don't really know what the game's about, go have a look now on some of the videos online. The gameplay walkthrough was just absolutely stunning. It's essentially a good mix of survival and horror and action, and it combines all of those elements really well. And for a lot of bits that looked like they were scripted, it turns out they were not scripted. A lot of journalists and developers have backed this up, and to be honest, it could turn out to be the game of the generation. Naughty Dog have absolutely proven their pedigree with the Crash Bandicoot games and the Jak and Daxter games, and recently the Uncharted games, and The Last of Us just looks to be improving on the whole lot. And failing to mention all of that, the graphics on the game were absolutely superb and some of the best that I've seen. So yeah, those were some real highlights for the show for me. But now I'm going to get to the dark side of E3, the side that those companies don't want you to know about, but I'm going to tell you anyway. E3 is no longer about video games, it is about the whole bloody package. Microsoft, I could not give two craps about Smart Glass, I could not give two craps about Kinect, and Sony, this Wonderbook thing, for the love of God, what the hell have you been smoking when you thought that was a good idea to put that in your main press conference? I mean, I'm not a guy that just loves to rant for the sake of ranting. These are genuine points, and I feel like I've been really let down by Microsoft and Sony. What I'm trying to get is, the emphasis from those two companies have not been on the games in the past couple of years. They have just been on the media package as a whole, which I guess is indicative of the way that the games industry is going. The fact that the casualization and the multimedia aspects of gaming is taking over, but I'm of the inclination that your main press conferences should literally just be about the games and nothing else. If that means condensing them down to an hour or even 45 minutes, then so be it, but they really left a sour taste in my mouth, those two press conferences. And it just confirms the fact that E3 is just less special than it once was. It used to be like Christmas time for gamers, but there were no real surprising announcements. There was nothing that really defined the show as far as I'm concerned, and each year there always should be something. But I will give Sony and Microsoft a bye in the sense that they've clearly got the Xbox 720 and the PlayStation 4 coming in next year's E3, so obviously these consoles are winding down. I was just really disappointed by the showing that they had. And now that I've got all that nastiness out of the way, I'll finish on something good again. Although there were no real surprise announcements like I alluded to, one game that obviously no one knew about, a totally new IP, and it absolutely stole the show for me, was Watch Dogs by Ubisoft. The game looked absolutely stunning. It's almost like a mix of Hitman and GTA and Deus Ex, and it seems like you just have a wealth of options and you can tackle the game how you want. The graphics were incredible, leading me to believe that it's actually going to be a next-gen title. Even though they've confirmed it's for current-gen consoles, I still think it's going to magically get delayed. But regardless, it had a lot of interesting concepts. The game world felt dynamic. The videos are very impressive. I implore you to watch them if you haven't. The journalist came away very impressed, and I can see why. But overall, Watch Dogs was definitely the game of the show for me. And being a Ubisoft title, that's quite surprising, as they often have games that don't really appeal to me. And I'll also give some honourable mentions to games that stood out to me as well. Splinter Cell Blacklist, which, although it's still the Conviction kind of style that I wasn't a massive fan of, it still looks really good. Beyond Two Souls, which is the new game by the creators of Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain's an awesome title, and this one, although the trailer didn't give away a great deal of information, it certainly set a precedent for the storytelling aspect, which is obviously their strongest point, and it looked like a really interesting premise for the game. Dishonored, again, not a great deal was shown. There was a gameplay trailer, and it looked to have a lot of interesting concepts behind it, a good mix of Bioshock and Assassin's Creed in my opinion. It took a lot of elements out of those games, and it really sounds like it could be a massive title. South Park: The Stick of Truth, I'm a huge South Park fan, and the fact that they've stayed true to the actual TV show and they've got Trey Parker and Matt Stone to actually help out on the game has obviously paid dividends, and it was quite cool seeing them in Microsoft's press conference. So I'm really looking forward to that game. And also a glimpse into the future, where we saw the Agnosis philosophy, I think it's called, the Final Fantasy tech demo anyway, by Square Enix, where they basically showed their concept of the next generation, how it's going to look. And I will tell you now, the graphics were freaking unbelievable. Like, you could see the details on each individual hair, and the lighting was incredible, and just the whole thing looked absolutely stunning. So that really made a good impression. It was much better than the Unreal 4 engine demo, I thought. And I'll also give a mention to the Wii U, actually. That was the main reason that I was hyped for E3 in the first place. Nintendo just gave a good showing, nothing more, nothing less. The fact that they revealed Pikmin 3 was good. I like the fact that they've announced a new Super Mario Bros. U. Clickable thumbsticks are a big plus. The addition of a core controller with no screen is also a good inclusion. Their launch lineup, while it has no real killer apps, is still a very solid lineup with the likes of Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect and Arkham City. So overall, Nintendo didn't wow me, but they really gave me a lot of faith that the Wii U isn't going to suck. And I am more than likely going to get this thing on day one, because I think the concept is pretty incredible. I was, however, quite disappointed that they didn't announce a price or a release date, but that's not imperative. So overall, those were my impressions of E3. Far from the greatest show that there's been in Los Angeles, but this is very much a transitional year in console gaming, and obviously the show reflected that, so I've got high hopes for next year, but overall quite disappointed. Oh, and one more bad thing, Resident Evil 6. Dear God, that game looks terrible. I just had to say that, sorry. So, I know this might be a bit late to the party, but those are my beliefs. Please drop a comment to say what impressed you at E3, what didn't impress you so much, whether you think E3 is on the downslide, or maybe it was just literally because we're waiting on the new consoles that it wasn't so great. But I always look forward to hearing your opinions. I read every comment, and I do try and reply to all of them. And I would also like to thank Randomized Box for the Moab gameplay. It is very kind of him to give it to me, that's what she said. And it marks the start of my subscriber initiative, where you can send your gameplay to me if you wish it to be featured in any of my videos, Twig included. And if you want to be involved in this channel, then just drop me a message and I'm sure I'll incorporate you somehow. So thanks for watching, as always. Please hit the like button if you agree with any of my points, and you can subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks very much. See ya.